You know, if you talk to anyone who you consider successful, I can guarantee you that they are consistently growing their mind. So, in that spirit, today we'll look at 4 books for real-life fluency. Now, these are the kind of books that natives and advanced speakers actually read. And each one of the 4 that we'll look at today has in some way changed my life. And I highly recommend them to my friends and coworkers, so it just makes sense that I would also share them with you so you can be successful as an English learner and also as a human being. So your mind is for having ideas, not holding them. So there was a time in my life where I had way too much to do, not enough time. Does this sound at all familiar to you? So many of us are in this state, right? And this book was just phenomenal in helping me to get my shit together. Now, what this means is that it helped me to take my problems, my disorganization, everything that was jumbling around in my head, and to put it in order. It would be an understatement to say that I've become so much more productive since I read this book and actually put its learning into place. So getting things done helps us to build a trustworthy system. And David Allen says that when we do this, we basically are able to achieve a state that he calls mind like water. Now what this means is that, instead of having all of these things, responsibilities, ideas jumbling around our head, we're able to put them somewhere else so they're not bothering us, which makes us to be in a state of much more tranquility. So this could be anything from having to do different projects at work, having deadlines and everything like that, to something simple like not forgetting to buy cat food so that your cat doesn't starve. This is also known as building yourself a second brain, because like the quote that we saw at the beginning, our brain, while it's really great at being creative, at creating ideas, at coming up with solutions, it's not so great at recalling all the information that we need when we need it. So by building the second brain, things are there when you need them. You don't have to worry about them. They're not taking up space in your consciousness. So today we're talking about books, right? So one small example of this is you could create a capture list for books that you might want to read someday. That way, anytime a friend or you're listening to a podcast and a book recommendation comes up, you can put it there, and maybe you won't ever read it, but it's there if you want it someday. By the way, Notion is a fantastic tool for getting things done. So if you'd like me to make a video about how I personally use Notion to be more productive, then let me know by commenting down below. So in this immensely popular book, David Allen goes all through everything that we need to do to build our second brain system to achieve that mind-like water state. So I highly recommend that you pick up this book and give it a read. I'm sure that it will be a hugely impactful moment in your life, just like it's been for me. And speaking of more clarity on actions, so at Real Life English, we believe that a core principle to being successful at getting confident, fluent English is by making it a fun, natural, convenient, everyday habit. Now, here on this channel, every single week, we make it fun, natural, and convenient for you to do this. So if you haven't already, definitely hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single new lesson. And James Clear's best-selling book, Atomic Habits, gives you the practical advice that you need to make it every day. So take just a moment to think about a goal that you've had, but you failed at. It could be something related to going to the gym, maybe starting a diet, maybe learning to play a new instrument, or something related to your English learning. Do you have that thing in mind? Why was it that you failed? Now, for a lot of this happens at the beginning of the year, right? We have all of these great intentions to redefine ourselves in the new year, but we fail at most of them. James Clear says that one of the primary reasons this happens is because we're valuing perfection over progress. More important than making huge changes like being able to run a 10K or half marathon is making sure that you learn to show up every single day, even if it's just throwing on your running shoes and going for a jog around the block. I really love this quote from him. Everyone is consumed by the end goal, but one push-up is better than not exercising. 1 minute of guitar practice is better than none at all. 1 minute of reading is better than never picking up a book. It's better to do less than you hoped than to do nothing at all. So if you're at all like me, you probably at some point have fallen into this trap that if I can't do it perfectly, I'm just not gonna do it at all. But just showing up is already a huge accomplishment when you're going through the difficult process of trying to develop a new habit. Once you've actually made it every day, something that you always show up to, then you can actually focus on optimizing it. Throughout this book, James Clear talks about how those small incremental changes over time do lead to tremendous changes. Over the months and years, if you're actually showing up every day at something that you're wanting to achieve, you can become a completely different person. So for example, if you're not currently studying English every day, imagine how big of a difference it could make if you started learning just one new word every single day. Now that seems small, but over the course of a year, that would be 365 new words that you would know that you don't know right now. And this habit can be super simple. Maybe you just set a 5-minute timer, and then you get a news article or a book, and you skim through until you find a new word. And then, once you found it, you just note it down with its definition. So if you want to learn a bit more, then check out this lesson that we made on another gem from James Clear's book about why systems are so much more powerful than goals. I've noticed when learning a language that reading is without a doubt the easiest of the 4 core skills, which are reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Do you find the same is true for you? Speaking, on the other hand, tends to be the most difficult, right? There's just so many opportunities that we get to read, but opportunities to actually speak and use the language are much rarer. Now here at Real Life English, we were just unsatisfied with any of the existing solutions helping English learners to start speaking more. Most of them are very expensive, they're inconvenient, and they're teacher-centered. That's why we decided to solve this problem ourselves with the Real Life app. Now, unlike other solutions out there, it's free, you can practice anytime, anywhere by just pressing a button, and you'll connect with English speakers like you from all around the world and also discover other cultures. So why not give it a try? You can download it for free right now by searching for Real Life English in your favorite app store, or click up here or in the description down below. And my challenge for you is that after you finish this lesson, you go to the app and have a conversation with someone about some of your favorite books. So I'll give you an idea of how you could kind of start that conversation out. So you could say, I just watched this video about life-changing books. A book that was really impactful on me was blah, blah, blah. And that's because blah, blah, blah. How about you? What's your favorite book? Nowadays, most people feel like they just don't have enough time for everything that they want to do. Now, one way to gain more time is by using your time more efficiently. That's why the next 2 books we'll look at will help you to become more focused and energetic in your English learning and anything else you want to accomplish. So Chris Bailey makes it more practical and simple for us to become more focused and creative in a distracted world in his book, Hyperfocus. And the great thing about this book is that it'll help you to better execute on the habits and systems that you developed with the first 2 books we looked at. So have you ever had the experience that you sit down to study or to work and you don't get very far before your phone buzzes and you're distracted by a WhatsApp, your Instagram, or maybe you go to pet your dog or your cat or something like that? So Bailey has a solution. One of my favorite ideas from this book he calls intention before attention. Now, what this means is that most times when we go to work or to study something, we just sit down and we kind of do whatever comes at us. Now, he says that if we set an intention beforehand, then we'll actually be able to focus more successfully. It's about being more deliberate about what you want to get done, be it during a study session or at work. So here's how it could look, for example. You could set yourself a timer, and if you don't have that sharper focus yet, then you might want to keep it short, maybe just 15, 20, 25 minutes. And you're going to set a singular intention during that time that you want to accomplish. Now you're just going to focus working on that one thing. It's really helpful to turn off any distractions. So turn off any messages, any notifications, things like that. You could even put your phone in airplane mode, or if you get really distracted by it, even put it in another room so it can't possibly distract you. And then when your timer goes off, if you're in the zone, you can of course keep going, but if not, then it's great to stop and take a break to kind of refresh your brain. So maybe you can go grab a glass of water, you could look out the window, maybe have a conversation with someone or something like that, and then come back and start again. Set a new intention and set another timer, and you'll find that by doing this throughout the day, you're going to accomplish so much more by the end. And remember the capture list that we looked at in Getting Things Done? Well, this goes perfect hand in hand with Hyperfocus, because say that you're doing a work session like that for 20 minutes and an idea pops up, or you remember, that you have to buy cat food or something like that. You just take note of it in your capture system, so it's there and you can take care of it in turn. You can take care of it later. We looked more at some tips from Hyperfocus recently in this lesson, and of course, by picking up Bailey's book, you're going to learn so much more about how to live a more purposeful life, how to be focused, and how to be more creative in your work. However, even if you perfectly use all of these productivity tricks, you might still have trouble focusing. And that's because you might still be lacking one simple, essential ingredient: sleep. So long before COVID-19, there had been an epidemic growing throughout most societies in the world. The World Health Organization now names lack of sleep as a global epidemic. Now, what exactly does enough sleep mean? Of course, it depends on the individual. You might think that you're someone who can get by on 6 hours of sleep, and unless you're an outlier, that's probably not the case. For most people, the average amount of sleep that is enough sleep is 7 to 9 hours. You've probably heard before that you need on average 8 hours of sleep a night. For me personally, after reading this book, I realized that I'm actually more in the category that needs more towards 9 hours of sleep a night. And in our societies, people are just so sleep deprived that they've become accustomed to being tired. They don't even remember what being well rested feels like. They don't realize what a huge impact it has on their productivity, their mood, and their motivation, and so much more. The old axiom of "I'll sleep when I'm dead" is quickly being debunked. Now, everyone knows, you probably have already heard millions of times, that having a good diet and exercising are both really crucial to living a healthy life, right? Well, sleep is even more important. Of course, you need to take care of those two things, but if you aren't taking care of your sleep, those two things can't make up for it. They won't save you. And it may seem counterintuitive, but you can actually sleep your way to English fluency. But more on that in a moment. Reading this book completely changed my relationship with sleep, which has certainly changed my life. Studies show that sleep is just so essential to living a great or even just a good life. So since I've read this, I've become much more religious about protecting my sleep. So what this means for me is making sure that I have a bedtime. So I have, pretty much a window of time that every night I try to be in bed by that time, and not sacrificing going to bed later because I want to watch another episode of a series. No. One way I've heard to think about this that's really interesting is by having goals in your life, having a purpose to your life. Because when you are trying to make that decision about should I go to bed or should I watch another episode, you're going to feel better if you go to bed earlier, right? And that's going to help you to be more able to achieve your purpose or your goals in life. So that's why knowing your personal why is just so important. I also find having more of a schedule for myself is important. So for example, most of us, we have a time that we start work by, but it's also really important to have a time that you cut off work, that you are disconnecting from your computer, your devices, because all of that screen light really affects your quality of sleep. Another thing that can really affect quality of sleep is digestion. So in Barcelona, there's a culture of eating really late, and I used to eat a lot later, but since I've read this and I've become more focused on improving my sleep and improving how I feel, I've been trying to eat dinner, schedule it in, even as early as 4 p.m. because it gives me a lot of time to fully digest and everything. And then when I go to sleep, I'm able to rest so much more soundly. I even ended up getting this Oura ring. Maybe you've seen it in some of the videos. And I got these blue light blockers because the light that we see at night all around us, in our house and everything, it really, again, affects our quality of sleep. It affects our drowsiness. Plus, they're just so cool, right? Now, I mentioned sleeping your way to fluency. Sleep is just so important for us language learners because sleep is when our memories are formed. So if you are like most learners, that you find it difficult to remember new vocabulary or remember grammar rules, sleep might be a big part of the problem if you're not getting enough of it. So as Walker says, practice doesn't make perfect. Practice plus a full night's sleep makes perfect. And a great first step, or even if you aren't thinking that you can read the whole book, check out Matt Walker's TED Talk or check out an interview with him. There's a lot of really great ones. I really enjoyed the one with Huberman, so check out one of those. We can link them in the description as well. And in fact, I said it's 4 books, but I'm just such an avid reader that I couldn't resist sharing another one with you. So I thought it'd be nice for us to end with a lighter book. So 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝗟𝗶 is this amazing storyteller. He is a tracker and wildlife guide from South Africa, which is where my fellow fluency coach 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝗟𝗶 comes from. And the reason I recommend this guy is because stories are just such a powerful resource for language learning. They really hook us. They make us want to not stop. They make it easy. They make it fun, natural, and convenient. That's exactly why, series of movies work so well for learning languages. So in this book, Boyd compares his specialty, which is animal tracking, to philosophies of living a good life. And he does this through the story of a track with his colleagues of a lion family in his native South Africa. There's so many lessons in this book, but one of the ones that most impacted me is how it's so important for us to break out of our status quo, to stop letting life just happen to us and to proactively seize it, to really go and discover what is our purpose, what were we put here to do. So a quote that I really love about this is that he says, most of us have so much of the social conditioning of modern life that the track of the wild self has been lost. We live with our attention directed outward. We focus on the social cues of our culture. We look to others to define our path and value and purpose. We lose ourselves in shoulds. Shoulds are full of traps laid by society and your limited rules for yourself. So if you're feeling lost or you just need a good dose of motivation and down-to-earth wisdom, then this is a great quick read. By the way, down-to-earth means that something is realistic, practical, and tangible. And I want to leave you with one of my absolutely favorite quotes from this book. It's one that I've been repeating to myself a lot lately. So he says, track what makes you feel good and bring more of it into your life. Notice what makes you feel lousy and do less of it. So those are the 5 books that we have. I really just want to challenge you to pick up one of these books and to start reading it. And let us know in the comments, which of these books are you going to pick up and why? And also check what other learners had to say. And if you enjoyed this lesson and you want more like it, then you can let us and YouTube know by hitting that like button. And you may feel just intimidated to read an advanced book like this. Nonfiction can be difficult, right? In English. But don't let that stop you. What you really need are the precious gems of information that they have inside that can help you to live your best life. So, read the translation if you need to. You could even, if you have the time, read the translation, read it in your native language, and then read it again in English. Of course, if you read them in English, you kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You're going to improve your English a lot, and you'll also be getting some precious lessons that are going to help you to live an incredible life. So that's all for today. Thanks so much for joining me. Yeah. Brene shows us that vulnerability is actually courage. Now, the courageous people, the people who are willing to be vulnerable, they show up. They're in their arena. They are willing to fail.
I have a vulnerability issue, and I know that vulnerability is kind of the core of shame and fear and our struggle for worthiness, but it appears that it's also the birthplace of joy, of creativity, of belonging, of love.
Now, the reason that this book is on this list is because most English learners feel shame when it comes to speaking English.